Hey guys, welcome to today's episode. I'm super excited because today is the International Podcast Day, and as a podcaster who has been doing this for the last 2 years, I am excited to actually share this episode with you guys today. I'm also going to be talking. Today's podcast is in twofold. Basically, I'll be talking about career opportunities for podcasters, what you can do intellectual property wise, and then I'm going to delve into our case study for today. It's not really a case basically, but celebrating another day, another intellectual property event which took place a couple of days ago, which is the World Tourism Day. So welcome guys to episode 78. Let's see, 28. No, 22 more episodes to the 100th episode. But yeah, welcome to today's episode. If you haven't listened to the previous one talking about trade secret, please do. And don't forget to like, subscribe, review, share, retweet, subscribe, follow, favorite on any of the platforms you're listening to me. And yeah, let's get into our conversation for today. Cheers, guys. So first off, happy International Podcast Day for my co-podcasters out there. Today there's gonna be a lot of conversations on podcasts. I know there's one organized by the African Podcast to make yourself stand out from every other brand out there. You can also consider if you have a team that you work with, make sure you have like a proper drafted agreement with your team members so that issues on authorship and ownership will not be raised. They know they are being hired to work for you, and whatever work is created belongs to you at the end of the day. Then you also look at being mindful of multimedia, right? The platforms that you are hosting your content on, what do they provide, your script. You also need to consider the copyright aspect of your work, which is that the moment you put or you do a recording just like I'm doing, your work enjoys protection the moment it's sent. But whereby you do not sign contract stating that contributors would transfer all rights to you, then that becomes an issue. You also need to consider that the difference between non-profit and also who a profit partner is. Also, if you're going into sponsorship deals, ambassador deals, you also need to make sure that you're not signing off your rights at the end of infringing on any other person's intellectual property as a podcaster. So have a long-term goal. Trademark and copyright should be your best friend if you're also going to create merch. Consider design right and also trademarking your short phrases or logo, um, or whatever it is. Then you also have to look at it from the domain name aspect. Um, if you can, do that as soon as possible before a cyber squatter does that on your behalf. Copyright your content. And trade secret, which is another type of intellectual property, is one that protects your podcast's business and gives you an edge over the other person. So it could be like your email list, who you're going into collaboration with, third parties you're working with, um, and make sure that when you are also live streaming or pre-recording, you ensure that you have the permission to feature anyone. Get like a release, what's it called now, a release form from the person authorizing you to actually um pub- publish the person or post the person's picture and image. You have issues as email. If you also have guests, get their consent to use their pictures. If they don't give you consent, don't go ahead to use it. If you're also getting graphic works or pictures from the internet, make sure that is a free and licensable picture that you're actually series info at gmail.com. Now, every 27th of September, I set aside to celebrate the World Tourism Day. I had initially thought I was going to do a blog post. I had started it, but never got to finish it. But I thought about it again. I was like, why don't I just publish it for the international podcast there? So here, guys, I will be talking about um, how we can explore the commercial aspect of intellectual property as it relates to the tourism industry. And this is my main focus of discussion will be for Nigeria. I'll also give you like an African bias. But maybe at some point I may refer to, when I'm giving my examples, how to buttress my case, I'll refer to other jurisdiction and what they have done. This is just going to be a very short, it's going to be a short episode, not too long. But yeah, since the 1980, the United Nations World Tourism Organization, which is like a leading international organization in the field of tourism mission. Um, their mission has basically been like to promote economic growth, inclusion, development, and environmental sustainability. Especially now when the world is kind of evolving, you're hearing about climate change and the rest of them, green tech, eco, and all those things, and everyone's thinking of how to make the world a better place for us. I'm aware that the UNWTO has an event sometime in November in Nigeria, still on the World Tourism Day. So if you haven't signed up for that, just do a Google search for the UNWTO Nigerian World Tourism Day event. I think it's 14th to 16th. Can't remember right now, but I know I registered for it, and it's taking place in Lagos, guys. So be on the lookout for that. Register, come network. I mean, the tourism sector is really fascinating. I love to travel. So far, I would say I've been, which is funny. I would say I've been to like almost 10 states in Nigeria, which is not even up to half. But we're getting there. We're getting there. But then there are issues that the government will have to fix and other stakeholders as well. But then just to throw more light that while we are thinking of, boosting the tourism sector, we should also be considering things like intellectual property, the interplay and the relationship and how intellectual property can help boost the tourism sector. Interestingly, the theme for this year seeks to discuss where tourism is going post COVID. Where do we go from here? Because according to the UNWTO global guideline to restart tourism, said about 100 to 120 million jobs were at risk during the pandemic. um, they lost about 910 billion to 1.3 trillion in exports, and also 850 million to 1.1 billion. They had less international tourists. So you can imagine when everyone was in lockdown, we couldn't travel because, if you wanted to travel there, you had to go through a series of tests, which you had to pay for. If you were suspected to be you know, if you had symptoms of that, you had to be put somewhere else for so you don't end up spreading the virus. Then, though a lot of countries now have relaxed their COVID-19 travel protocol, but then you can imagine what transpired during the pandemic 2020 and also early to mid 2021. Um, Now, how do we get there? By considering development, education, jobs, and also the impact on the planet and sustainability. It will be said that there was less pollution because people were not really interacting with, communities and goods and tourist sites and the rest of them. But yeah, how do we move from there? I mean, we're still trying to set up and get back our lives. We had a bit of the monkeypox scare early this year, or I think a couple of months ago, which that's been a bit handled. But the pandemic was one that took a toll on a lot of people. But yeah, let's get into talking about what tourism is, forms of tourism, types of tourism, how we can explore intellectual property, and then I'll do my recommendation, guys. Now, in the course of my research, I bought a book last month. Yeah, last month during the Nigerian Bar Association conference. It was a book on tourism, and it was quite affordable. So the author is Olufemi Abifarin, and the title of the book is Tourism, Travels, Entertainment, and Hospitality Law. So he defined tourism to be the movement of person or a group of persons from his or their abode to a place far or near for the purpose of leisure. Whereas the glossary of tourism terms by the UNWTO defined it as a social, cultural, and economic phenomenon which entails the movement of people to countries or places outside their usual environment for personal slash professional purpose. And I agree. Like you change environments, it could be for health purpose, it could be for work, just want to go and chill and have fun. I mean it's getting to the festive period, so we're gonna see a lot of um movement of people from one jurisdiction to another jurisdiction and stuff like that. You're gonna have a lot of cross border movements, people, goods, products, all of those things. So forms of tourism. First, you have the domestic tourism, whereby because I'm focusing on Nigeria, I'm just going to talk about Nigeria for now. Whereby Nigerians visit other parts of Nigeria for personal or professional purposes. For instance, I was born in Benue State. My mother is Benue. I was born in Benue State. My dad is Rivers, and we had to move from Benue to Rivers when I was 5, and I had to move again from Rivers to Anambra for school, and I had to move again from somewhere in Anambra, Okija, to Usube, and I had to move, um, for work. I had to travel to Lagos, I had to travel to Abuja. I also had to go to Enugu. I've been to Yo, that's Akwa Ibom, conference for events. I've had to travel to what's to say? I think it was Lorry. Yeah, I had a lecture to give. My former boss like referred me, and I was told it was going to be a 4 hours journey. So I was like, okay, if I leave Lagos, 6, 7, we left at 6 anyway. I was going to get there like 10. Almost that trip that day was long. Oh my gosh. Like it took me 7 hours to get to the school and it wasn't funny. So you also get to yeah, I had to go to Ondo, Akure, or I think that's like one of my best career related trips because we had to go to the Idore Hills and it was amazing. It was long but amazing. I had so much fun there. Um, but yeah, you get to travel and visit other parts of Nigeria. Now you have the inbound tourism where foreigners are visiting Nigeria for personal or professional purposes. They get visas, expatriate visas, and their trips are mostly short term. Um, they do their business and then they're off. Then you have the outbound tourism, which involves Nigerian visiting overseas country, especially now post COVID. I mean, there's been like I would say like there's a spring up or lots of travel influencers or tourist influencers. Everybody is traveling. I guess we're just too caged up during the pandemic, and everyone was like, "Yo, I gotta go to Mali. I have to go to Bali. I have to go to South Korea. I have to go to this. I have to go to that." And when you see the pictures, the videos, you're like, "Oh my gosh, I can't wait!" Like now, I think one of my go-to places that I would want to visit is Seoul. That's in South Korea. Like their um tourism videos are just mind blowing. And then a lot of South Korean series as well. So don't blame me, guys. I really just want to have that experience. Then next up will be, let's see. I never used to like America, but I'm kind of liking it now with what I'm seeing online. There's Seychelles, there's Dubai. Dubai is off limits. Right now, if you're under 35 and single, you can be in Dubai. So sad. But there are other beautiful countries out there that one would want to exploit that for professional or personal level. For instance, we have the International Trademark Association meeting next year holding in Singapore. I would love to go, so I have to plan towards it. I have to plan towards it. But yeah, that's about it for forms of tourism. Then you have types of tourism um, which basically focuses on the reason why tourists actually travel. Is it for leisure? Is it health purpose? It's been said one of the government officials in Nigeria explores the health tourism system a lot, and currently one of the presidential aspirants is, towing the same line. But I do not want to cause problems, so I'm just going to just talk about health tourism, where people have to travel to countries like India or America or any other country to get treated for an it's serious um, sickness or illness or disease or whatever it is. Then you have sports tourism. Um, so for instance, when you have the likes of the Premier Leagues, people have to travel, to go see their best club play. You have the Olympics, and the rest of them, all the sporting events, and you just want to like, okay, other than watching this person play or watching this particular sport, I just want to see the city. That comes up as well. They have cultural and scientific tourism, where it's strictly, oh, you're interested in someone's culture or you are, you know, doing it for research purpose. And you have space tourism, you have social tourism, you have cult and religious tourism. So for instance, in Nigeria, we have the likes of uh, the pilgrimage where the Muslims or the Christians travel to go and observe, perform some of their Christian, some of their religious activities. They have reality tourism. So these are like the types of tourism that you have. Next up, I'll be talking about the products of tourism or the stakeholders in tourism. For instance, the retail, um, for those who want to buy, products, um, take things as some sort of souvenir to their back home. Accommodation for where you sleep. Now we have the likes of Airbnb instead of opting for hotels. We have hospitality, transport services. It could be train, it could be by air, it could be by boat, it could also be by road. You have the cultural services, you have the travel agency and reservation services. You also have the sports and recreational activities, um, the tour guides and the tourist guides. Those are like the products of tourism. Next, I'm talking about relevant laws in the tourism and hospitality industry in Nigeria. And like I had earlier stated, the tourism industry interplays not just with IP but other sectors. So there are laws that guides a particular jurisdiction. But I'll be naming a few and including a few international instruments. So first you have number one, the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Please check them out. You have the Custom and Excise Management Act. You have the Food, Drugs and Related Product Registration Act. You have the National Agency for Food and Drugs Administration and Control Act. You have the Nigerian Tourism Master Plan. It's a I don't know. Just read the document. Then you have the Nigerian Tourism Development Corporation Act. You have the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority Establishment. You have the Hague Protocol 1955, the Athens Convention 1974, the Merchant Shipping Act. So, in order for us to reach our true potential as the next tourism hub in Nigeria, a lot of investment will have to be put into security, infrastructure, standard transportation, sustainable accommodation. This is where IP or intellectual property comes into play. This is more or less like an unexplored area of law in Nigeria. I mean, look at how the aviation sector just, skyrocketed, how things just changed. I mean, things just went from bad to worse. The pressure is on, and the festive period is fast approaching. And trust me, guys, it's going to be a lot worse. And we are blessed in Nigeria. Trust me, guys, we are blessed. So, this episode is going to focus on how we can rethink tourism by exploring intellectual property. Simply put, using our intangible assets, which are our low hanging fruits, monetizing it, exploiting e commerce. I mean, there are stories, there are products, agricultural products, there are services, there are traditional knowledge, there are dances, there are films. We have the talents. I mean, when God made us creating the earth, He just like dropped most of the assets in Africa. I'm not saying other continents do not have their intangible assets, but we are blessed and we're yet to tap into that. We can't let people keep telling our story. We have to tell our story ourselves through our services and also through and also by also promoting which will basically help us promote the economy. And when you're talking about intellectual property, this is more or less like an intangible asset made up of creative and innovative works that can be commercialized or used for commerce. It also gives the authors legal backing and protection once it's registered in Nigeria or any other territory, as the case may be. But for our conversation for today, just know that everything I'm saying is Nigeria based because I'm Nigerian. Yeah. The value of IP in the tourism sector relies solely on innovation, entrepreneurship, and investment, which is used to develop um, the country or the economy and also boost competition in line with the mission of intellectual property, which basically is to encourage people to be creative and innovative, be it individuals or businesses or other stakeholders by exploring intellectual property mechanisms or rights such as copyright, trademark, patents, design rights, plant variety, geographical indication, and trade secret. Now we need to start taking intellectual property more seriously here in Nigeria because this is like I don't know, it's off the it's off the chart, guys. I think I like to say it's off the chart, but yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Like by the time we start exploring elements of intellectual property and fusing it into the tourism and hospitality industry, more we go blow past artists. So, and that one are the truth. That's the cocoa. We also need to look at it from consider intellectual property from the moment from product development up until when it gets into the market, where we are creating our laws, our policies, and that will affect its states. I'm Rivers, or I'm based in Lagos, so Benue, my mom's place. Um, we have tourism ministries, we have officials, government officials there. But what are they bringing out at the end of the day? I'm not talking down anyone, but we need to look inwards, interact with the local government chairmen, practitioners, the products such as the travel agency, tour guides. We need to, get our culture, get our history right. When we do that, we end up promoting our cultural heritage, our traditions, and also the knowledge out there. Because if the way the world is evolving kind of feels like cultures or tradition or you know things that are supposed to be embedded in us are being lost because of the evolution happening around us. But that should not be the case. So remember how I talked about intellectual property mechanisms. I'm going to break each of them down and how they basically interplay with the tourism sector. For instance, copyright. Copyright basically protects literary and artistic works such as music, songs, sound recording, artworks, film, broadcasting. But when you put this in the tourism sector, the pamphlets you get, that's the promotional materials, the film that was shot or the song that was created to, just give people a sense of, oh, so this is how it's done here, or I'm intrigued, or the software or the app, the website that was or platforms used for reserving your hotels, booking your ticket to go to that destination, either by road or by air, whatever it is, um, publications, performance of traditional cultural expressions, etc. Pictures you take, photos of objects, of artworks, of film. Same thing with, you know, the film. So far as the work is in a fixed or tangible format, something that we can see, read, listen to, appreciate your expression, your work being expressed in a fixed form. It's already protected. But what the law provides is that it has to be properly documented in Nigeria. You deposit a copy with the Nigerian Copyright Commission, but then when it has to do with cultural, even cultural works too as well, I'm not going to, I don't want to go beyond what I want to focus on for this podcast, but it's a whole, it's a whole lot out there. Then you have trademark, your slogans, the name, the signs, symbols, anything that is used to identify a product or service in that particular region, in that particular territory. You also have things like certification marks used to um, um, signify that a product is or service is of good quality. Like if it's not from Abakaliki, you can't really get this at the red way it is. You can't get this sculpture if it's not an Ogoni man or a Calabari man making it. If it's not from this place in Nigeria, it can never. So there's like quality already attached. Is this wood? If you don't come from Edo, guy, forget I don't know if you guys are making sense. You then have collective man where a group of persons, you know, come together and like, okay, we're going to use this as our way of saying, oh, this belongs to us, this is from here, we made it. The handicraft men of Obiakpo local government. That's my local government, guys. I'm just giving vague, calling vague places. And all of those things. Then you have design right for visual appearance of products or a combination of lines and colors. So it's like, for instance, now, yeah, the way now it's being modernized. The Ashoke, the likes of Jola Sage, um, the Captain, um, what else? What else? What else? Like our cuisine, the way we build our houses. Is like when you go to Ibadan, you see brown roofs, and like, eh? So imagine someone decides to like create an architectural work or create a product, a merchandise that he sells goods, product, handicraft, or traditional products. So you know that, oh, this came all the way from Ibadan. That's what design right does for you. Then you have GI, which is geographical indication that protect the unique and well-known agricultural and non-agricultural product or services emanating from a particular region. It can also be used as a tourism destination point. I got this from India. I got this um from New York. I got this from Lagos. I got this from River State. I got this from Benue. Yeah, I had to put Benue in because of my mom, but you guys get the drift. Um, then you have, forgive me, guys. I'm kind of having issues with my throat. My allergies are acting up. But then you have trade secret. Trade secret basically protects that confidential information that if a third party hears it, it's gonna raise, like, it's basically going to, affect your business. So anything that gives you an edge, a competitive edge in the industry, in tourism industry. Why are people always going to Dubai? Dubai is so invested in research and development. They want to be at the top of their games. The new development, they're already there. So imagine Dubai doing a tourism, what would I call it, a fanfare in the metaverse. 'Cause I know they just launched their metaverse academy in Dubai. I mean, now we're moving from analog to digital to virtual. The pressure is getting worse. When are we going to catch up in Nigeria? Patent basically protects inventions. Um, but these are like the relevant intellectual property rights that we need to, take notice of. The reasons why we should take this intellectual property mechanism I just mentioned: one, they are national rights and are protected by national law. So we have all the laws, all the IPs at least they have laws in Nigeria. Um, they are subject to commercial transaction. It also gives you legal protection of your creation and invention. I mentioned how intellectual property encourages creativity and innovation. It also promotes and protects IP competitions, economic growth. It also creates jobs, enhances people quality and enjoyment of life. And the tourism value chain, it's a combination. It's like an umbrella that has different help. So you're not just alone. You are basically relying on this mechanism that enhances the management of your company and your tourism destinations. You also add to the sale pitch, it attracts investment and obtain financing. You can able to obtain financing. It also gives local producers the opportunity to put themselves out there and market their products. It also increases the value of the brand in question. Um, and I think that's, let me just, okay, just hold on, guys. So I was reading this publication. It was like a dual or a collaboration between the UN, WTO, that's the International Organization for Tourism, and the World Intellectual Property. So it has like a chart, which is it's so it says many parties are involved to make tourism work. Support institutions: Ministry of Tourism and Culture, Chamber of Commerce, Ministry of Interior, banks. So we have agricultural and aquacultural suppliers, that is the textile, woods, foods. That leads us to construction and real estate, furniture and equipment, shops in accommodation, food factories, and rural areas, maintenance, marketing and sales, food suppliers, storage and distribution, handicraft suppliers, manufacturers, artists, musicians, trade companies, wholesalers, brochures, management, restoration, books, CDs, DVDs, technology, shops, and imports. Next up, we have the indirect. So that's under like the indirect market. Then you have merchandising of tourism products, Ministry of Tourism and Culture, promotional activities, communication, press and media, travel organizations and booking, custom office, Port Authority, Minister of Transportation, or Ministry of Transportation. Apologies, guys. You have Immigration Agency, Transportation, Accommodation, Food and Beverage, Handicraft, Tourism, asset in destination leisure, um, excursion and tours, support services. Then the direct industry, its origin in transit destination, you have internet travel agent, call centers, airlines, tour operators, and wholesalers. From origin to destination, you have car rentals, hotels, guest houses, youth hostel, river ferry, guys, river ferry, taxi companies, such as what's that Lagos one again? Is it Lagos right now? Yeah, they have Uber, Bolt, in drivers. Um, then you have kiosks, food, souvenirs, water, energy, construction, waste, education, communication, public security and health, handicraft, artisan, handicraft workshop. I think we have something like that in Echo Hotel. Then we used to have the handicraft guys at CFC in Port Harcourt, but I think they've moved because of the construction work being done. Then you have shows, tourist guide, information centers, grocery shops and retail outlets, independent tourist guide, transport guards, tourism packages, wellness and spas, internet cafes, cultural asset, archaeologies, communities, ethnics, museum, tourism attraction, intangible cultural assets such as music, dance, legend, myths, festival. Ah, so many of that. We need more publicity. We need to have our own version of our operas performing natural assets such as lakes, rivers, reefs, and mountains. Oh, the Doring Hill was a blast, guys. Forest, species of flora and fauna, a whole lot. So you see that there's job potential, there's economy boost. There's so many things available if the government decides to say, okay, we are not going to focus on oil and gas anymore. We're going to focus on, you know, these sectors or ministries or industries. Um, for section of accommodation, you have software for copyright. Then looking at it from the bigger aspect of the 21st century, use of digital platforms such as Airbnb, Booking.com. There was a trademark case against Booking.com. So it was Booking.com and the United States Patent and Trademark Office, and they're like Booking.com was a generic word, but they won the matter because the court had held that it's the perception of the consumer. Consumers are king. So if you have the market, you have the data, what are you waiting for? Do your work, create distinctive name. Things are not generic. Then souvenirs as design right patents invention. You know when you invent something that really solves an issue for tourists, they can be impressed by that and then decide to um invest in it. Now let's look at it from the trademark aspect where your destination, you need a nation so it's called nation marking or nation destination something. But now everyone is so focused on where's the happening place, and trademark is not the only element that can be protected. You also have other intangible aspects um that can be protected. But let's talk about examples of trademarks. So you have the likes of, so I'm reading this is an insight from the guide by the UNWTO and WIPO. So the examples they've given here is the Alpine Resort of St. Moritz, Switzerland. And we know that trademark protects names. I know there was a case recently that I analyzed if it was possible for someone to trademark a case, as a case between Iceland Food and the Iceland government. So if the government goes ahead to trademark the name of their place, protect their logos, protect their internet domain name, no one is going to mess around with them because one, when you register your mark, you get exclusive right to use them. It becomes a source identifier for your consumers, the tourists. Even though they are time limited, if you have a good portfolio or strategy, you're able to, expand the term of duration of your trademark protection. If you also pay your renewal fee as well, you get to be protected. You can also explore packaging of goods, three-dimensional signs, colors, sound, smells. Um, these are non-traditional trademarks, though difficult, but then doable. Um, Now, based on the tourist value chain elements such as transportation, accommodation, food and beverage, handicraft, tourism asset, leisure, excursion, tours, if in the event that a dispute arises, say someone decides to use the name of your um, travel agency, or someone decides to pass off the handicraft of a collective organization that owns a body or group of persons that owns a collective mark, uh, or someone decides to, reproduce your song or film or dance or picture without your consent, there are ways you can resolve your dispute. So you can either go to court and setting a precedent for people like us who may want to refer to those cases when having discussions with people or our clients, um, or you explore the art of court settlement such as arbitration. I think arbitration is more suited for this kind of dispute, tourism related disputes, especially when it now becomes like a cross-border tourism dispute. It now becomes like an investment. If it becomes an investment dispute and the rest of them, how do you then protect yourself or protect your country? There's issues as to international trade laws, bilateral agreements signed, and all those kind of things. Or you might even decide to what's the word now? You might even decide to adopt the local mode of resolving such disputes. Say, someone from another community or country decides to reproduce or steal or export or import um, a collective mark of a place. Then they have ways of resolving this dispute. So this is just for educational purpose. This is not legal advice. This is just me, doing what I know how to do best, educate and advocate. But, because I really wanted to put something out there for World Tourism Day this year, and I think doing this was like the best thing ever. Yeah, so yeah, let's get into. So we're going to wrap up right now, where I'll talk about my recommendation and the way forward. So to wrap up this conversation on um IP and tourism, here are my recommendation. First of all, each state in Nigeria should create a sandbox that is specifically geared towards understanding and exploring the relationship between intellectual property, tourism, and culture. We also need to identify and map out low-hanging fruit. We need to, identify our intangible asset in each of these states, come up with a strategy on how to monetize and exploit it, build an environment that encourages investment in the tourism and hospitality industry. We need to repeal and amend um, our already existing laws and policies, and give it like a Nigerian standard and African standard in view of the AFCTA, the African Free Trade Continental Agreement, and also have like an international standard. We can also, which is why this UNWTO conference or event taking place in November in Lagos is going to be a good way for this discussions to be had. We need to also identify ways to raise funds for our projects in this industry, to create a model to exploit and commercialize our low-hanging fruit or intangible assets or our intellectual property, such as licensing or collaborating or assigning or creating merchandise, just anywhere to monetize what we have and still gain or have control over it. We also need to educate and recommend um, intellectual property, the best intellectual property rights that can boost the economy and also position Nigeria as a destination hub. We also need to explore the sustainable development goals, um, such as goal 8, which basically is to promote um, to promote, sustain, include, and sustain economic growth, full and productive work, employment, also SDG 9, which is to build resilient infrastructure, promotes inclusive and sustainable industrialization and um, faster innovation. SDG 12, which is to ensure sustainable consumption and production pattern. They also consider SDG 14. Then we need to create policies and law that helps us to preserve the wildlife. So I was privy, this is just an aside, I was privy to go to Ekpe, and while we were talking to the head hunters, we found out that there were about 28 elephants in Ekpe who migrate or move around because they don't have access to the right kind of foods, and people have been poaching them. The hunters are not properly funded. The monkeys as well has been killed and eaten. They have other animals such as a wild pig. I can't remember the rest, but it was really sad to hear that a place like that existed and the government is not really doing much. What can we do to change the narrative? How do we preserve historical buildings or monuments or structures that have relevant and tell a story? How do we write stories about them? How do we monetize them? We need to start, uploading content, telling our stories. Don't give us a Hollywood version Nigerian movie or script or whatever or song. Mm-mm. Nah, like go back to your village. I'm from Elele, and I know my dad has told me a story as to why we don't let individuals have female dogs in the community. Even if you do, you have to keep it indoors. So there are some places that some traditions are very sacred. So one time in Lagos, I brought out my phone to call someone, and I don't want to call them out there, but someone was like, if they take picture of me, what do you think say they do? And I was like, I just want call person. Simple. And the previous day I had spoken to a client of mine who told me something about that tradition. I just felt it was like, he was just saying it. But when it happened to me, that I was like, God, I beg go. I saw person 14 say, I want to take a picture and I go break my phone, and before I know now, it can just escalate. But yeah, we need to, connect with local producers, connect the local producers to the Ministry of Tourism sectors. We need to also collaborate with tourist influencers, people who travel for a living, pay them a stipend, sign a contract with them. They own the content they create, but their duty is to tell stories. I know there's this guy, is it Tayo Films? He documents um, stories about places. There was one he did about is it the guy that could tame a snake or something like that, or the guys that own hyenas and all of those things in some part of the northern part of Nigeria. Then I've seen pictures of very lovely lakes, waterfalls in Nigeria, and I'm like, God when, God when, God when. Then I know I sometimes when I shared a video about a picture about the beach in, is it Okrika or where, one of these local government in Rivers, and I was like, it's one day my backyard. When I will go, we shall just need support from the government at the end of the day. We can't do it by ourselves. And I hope that with this podcast, we get more people take interest in tourism, and also the relationship between tourism, intellectual property, and how we can use IP to promote tourism innovation and leverage on fundraising, investments, having the appropriate policies and legal framework, infrastructure, education. I mean, this, you guys, shall know that there's a lot of work to do. We need to train tourism policymakers. We need to have a good IP management organization. We need to have a good IP policy for destination brand, for franchising, licensing, merchandising, our cultural assets. We need to take them more seriously. Um, that way, it gives us an edge when we decide to go into the world and start seeking for funding for other things as well. But yeah, I mean, let's take a good look at Afro Nation. Is it Afro Nation at the big concert festival that takes place? I think it said started in Ghana for events and festivals and concerts. It attracted lots of visitors to that jurisdiction. We can use that to develop tourism products with their event marketing strategy. That through film. Okay, now the film festival that takes place, that's a form of tourism. Theater, music festival, celebrations. I mean, everywhere is opening up. So we're hoping, or not we, I am hoping, come 2023, things are going to explode. We're going to take the right actions against any form of reproduction or infringement. We need to register and identify our intellectual property rights. We need to monitor how it's being used. We also need to monitor the people that come in here. We need to monitor people that interplays with these third parties by way of trademarking, trademarks of our sponsors, give terms and conditions to people that attend events, the visitors, the tourists. I mean, the immigration office has a lot of work to do. The aviation has a lot of work. The customs as well, the port authority, everyone has a lot of work to do. Broadcasting, recording, performing sounds, pictures, commissioned works, guidelines, volunteers. They should all be informed about intellectual property. Like, I'm going to participate in this or volunteer for this. Please know the basics when it comes to that. Know what are the rights of a third party who gets to use our intellectual property rights or intellectual property in the tourism sector, be it for cultural or sports events. Intellectual property rights such as domain names, copyright, trademark, design rights. If they are going into a licensing arrangement, if they are buying merch, or you're being contracted to be part of the merchandise team, either point of sale on site or offline. Also need to look out for counterfeiting as well. When people attend sporting events, I talked about that. Sponsorship, branding. Need to watch out for ambush marketing as well. But yeah, you guys let me know what you think about this episode on tourism and intellectual property. If I did good, if you feel I should have done better, send me an email. How best can we connect intellectual property to tourism? The best strategies. If you have ideas you want to share with me, thank you. Now I'm feeling rambling, but yeah, thank you guys for listening to me talk about IP again, which plays a key role in all the businesses, but because of our focus is on tourism, we need to look at that. We need to also protect our brand, our assets. Look at the bigger picture. Where are our museums? Where are our digital museums? Now, anyways, guys, thank you for listening to me. Okay, thank you for listening to me. And yeah, see you in episode 79. Can't wait, guys. Can't wait.